Welcome to the Woman's Connection. I'm Barrie-Louise Switzen, your moderator. The Woman's Connection is a program about events shaping women's lives and helping one gain authentic power on a personal or professional level. So won't you stay tuned? Welcome. As individuals, we go through 3 stages: child, adult, and child. As we age, so are our parents aging. How do we cope with our parents aging and us aging? And I would like to welcome Jacqueline Marcell, who wrote a fabulous book called Elder Rage. Jacqueline, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
What were you experiencing with your own parents that you decided to write this book?
Well, you know, my life had been going along just fabulously, and then all of a sudden everything started to fall apart, and I got the call I had to go take care of my mom and dad. And it was a nightmare for a year before I solved it and managed it properly. And I came back from the experience, I said, I have to write a book. Nobody should have to go through this. I bought all the books on elder care, and they all made it sound so easy if you had a cooperative parent, but I didn't. So the title of my book is Elder Rage, or Take My Father, Please, How to Survive Caring for Aging Parents. And it will help people to understand the craziness that happens, you know, some of the episodes, the ups and downs that they put you through. And what I didn't understand was that my dad was starting to get some dementia. He was starting to get Alzheimer's.
Well, when this all started, what was your initial reaction?
I was shocked. You know, my dad had a raging temper his whole life.
Oh, wow.
And he'd pound that table, you know, and we'd walk on eggshells not to upset Daddy. But I was the golden child. He never raged at me. And just my mother and my brother got it. So here I come in trying to help them, and he doesn't understand the changes I'm trying to make. And so he's getting furious with me, and he starts this raging at me. But it was over the top. It was, even for him, it was, you know, really just amazing what he was doing. Now, see, with the knowledge I have now, I wouldn't cry and sob my heart out. I'd reach over and call the Alzheimer's Association, and I'd know that they would connect me to specialists who would understand that he was at the very beginning signs of early dementia.
All right, well, let's start back a step. Before you got to the fact that he was starting with dementia.
Right.
You were trying to explain it to doctors and police officers.
Yeah.
And they would all look at you as like, lady, where are you coming from?
Because he could act so normal when he needed to. And I'm here to tell you, demented does not mean stupid. See, what our perception of somebody with dementia, our stereotype is they don't have any idea what they're doing. They're in the corner. They don't know you. They don't know themselves. That's stage 3. You've got to go through stage 1 and stage 2 before you get there. Now, stage 1 lasts 2 to 4 years, and it's real subtle, it's real intermittent, and it's real mild. So statistically, families ignore stage 1 for 4 years, and doctors typically ignore it unless they're a dementia specialist. So what happens is people are reaching out, they're in stage 2, they're in a crisis, now what do I do with them? And they could have been helped so much more if they understood the warning signs.
Well, let's take it. What are some of the warning signs?
Well, you know, I'll say to people, I'll say, how's your mom doing? You know, oh, she's great. Any sign of dementia? Oh, no, she's just great. Does she ever ask you the same question over and over? Oh, yeah. Does she tell you a story, then 10 minutes later tell you again? Oh, yeah. But isn't that normal? Isn't that a normal part of aging? She's 80, 85. No, it's not. I'm here to tell you these are warning signs. When your loved one says, you know, what time are we going to the party? Mom, I told you we're going at 5. Oh, you did, honey? I don't remember. Warning, warning. It never went into that part of the short-term memory. See, so instead of going, don't get mad, I say, be glad you experienced one, because now you know there's something you can do about it. We have 3 medications that can slow the dementia down, mask it, make the lucidity clearer, help these people stay in stage 1 an extra 2 to 4 years. The first one's called Aricept. The second one's called Exelon, E-X-E-L-O-N. Third one is called Reminil, R-E-M-I-N-Y-L. If you don't hear one of these 3, Aricept, Exelon, or Reminil, you're not having your loved one treated properly for the dementia.
Now, don't many different diseases have the same symptoms?
That's the problem, because there's many diseases that can mask itself as dementia. So many people are being diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and they don't have Alzheimer's, they're just depressed. So depression can cause dementia-like symptoms. They're confused, they're misplacing things, they're asking the same question, they're not able to balance a checkbook. A lot of times depression can cause dementia-like symptoms.
So how do you differentiate between the two?
You call the Alzheimer's Association and you get a referral to a dementia specialist, a neurologist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, an MD who has a heart for seniors. Because, see, regular doctors are going to say, well, they're going to die anyway.
Wonderful thought.
And you want to kill them, because you're like, well, I'll remind you of that when it's your mother we're talking about. It's easy for them to say.
Right.
So you've got to get to the right doctor. That is the key, I'm telling you, because this doctor's going to do more than the mini-state mental test. I took my dad to the doctor, go, well, what day is it? What time is it? Who is the governor? Make this, draw this. Can you redraw? He passed. They sent me home again.
To go through the whole process again.
Yeah. So I go, well, then he's just being horrible, which he was. But see, he was also getting it, and they didn't catch it.
Well, then what was the final triggering point that everybody got it?
Right. Well, he was choking me to death.
Oh, that would be a good point.
He was really mad. I put HBO on the TV for a caregiver that was moving in. Oh, horrible. And he told me it was okay. So here I put on, he's got his hands around my throat. I'm like, okay, I'll take this as definite no on the HBO. I can get Showtime if you prefer. Maybe the original channel is what we need here. Well, I was so shocked. I barely called 911. My finger couldn't hit the dial. They take him to the psychiatric hospital. He's a doll. They say, your dad's the greatest guy we've ever seen. We love him. I'm like,
so how did you finally prove all this?
4 times. You have to read the book, Elder Rage, to find out what happened. But 4 times things happen like that. Till I finally had to threaten the doctor with a lawsuit. I said, if he comes home and hurts me, my mother, the caregiver, I went through 40 caregivers, everybody. I mean, I couldn't get one to stay. Who's going to stay and put up with this? And he hurts anybody, I'm suing you. I'm suing the hospital. I'm suing and I'm writing a book about this. I may have to change your name, but when it's made into a movie, I want to make sure the actor looks just like you. He held him for 2 weeks instead of 3 days.
And during that time period, did your father show all his different
He
sides?
did not show the rage, but the doctor finally said, well, I see the dementia. I'm starting to see he can't learn very well. Really? He spent more than 20 minutes talking to him is what happened. So once he kept him there for 2 weeks, they started to see there was things going on. And then I just had it with these people. And then I said, I've got to find, and the Alzheimer's Association is who helped me, find the right doctors who balance the brain chemistry with one of those meds to slow down the dementia. And, most of the people with dementia are also depressed. So they need an antidepressant.
Oh, my goodness.
Along with it. And they're not being treated.
That can also treat,
and it can make it worse.
Trigger other things, right.
So once I got the antidepressant in him and medication for the aggression, because see what happens in dementia with some people, the part of the brain that can become damaged is impulse control. So where you and I get mad about something, we take a minute before we lash, where his impulse control is damaged. So he'd get mad and he would just act on it immediately. So once I got that brain chemistry properly managed, then we did a little behavior modification on him. And I'm not telling you 100%, but we rewarded the good behavior, hugs and kisses and loves and attention and extra dessert, and we really rewarded it.
So you were basically treating him like a child once again.
At times. I have a chapter title, Once an Adult, Twice a Child, because at times he did act like it. He took all the canned goods out of the pantry and threw them in the living room and says to the caregiver, you work for me, go pick them up. Really? Well, so we didn't give him dessert that night or the next day. Came home the next day. Those canned goods are still in. You better put those away. You work for me. Now, is this dementia or is this just plain nastiness?
Good question.
Good question. So, no dessert. By the 3rd day, no dessert. And Mom's getting strawberry pie with a scoop of vanilla ice cream, fat-free. And he's not getting any, and he's mad. So, he finally looks over and he says, well, if I go pick up the canned goods and put them away, do I get dessert? Yes, if you apologize and put the canned goods away, you'll get dessert. Okay, honey, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. And he goes and puts things away. So dementia doesn't mean stupid, see? Now, that's not going to work on somebody in stage 3. Remember I told you there's 3 stages. Stage 1 is 2 to 4 years, so we were still in stage 1. So he still had ability Stage 2 is 2 to 10 years. Stage 2 requires full-time care. This is why you got to wake up in stage 1.
Well, where was your mother and what was happening to your mother during this time period?
She had had a heart attack 11 years before, and he had taken care of her all that time, refusing all my help, but calling me every day. They're in San Francisco, I'm in Los Angeles, calling me and complaining every day. So I would fly up there and get caregivers in place. 3 days later, I got rid of her. She was no darn good. So I went through 11 years of that, till finally, that's when I had to step in, when he almost killed her from sheer neglect, and she almost died. And then he almost electrocuted her and almost burned the house down, but, you know. So this is what I went through. And this is why I wrote the book, Elder Rage, or Take My Father, Please. Because everything I learned, if I had known what's in this book, if I had known this, it wouldn't have taken me a year. It wouldn't even take me a month. I would know what to do. I would walk in there, and when I saw that house in a deplorable condition, see, this is another warning sign. They're not taking care of things anymore.
It's not like it used to be.
Not like it used to be. Anything that strikes you as illogical or irrational, it is. Don't second guess yourself. You know, write all these things down, because these are signs, and the right doctor can help you.
Now, you also said that you wound up walking around with a tape recorder to prove that, hey, this is really going on and I need help. What's going on?
That's another thing you can do, you know. I take him to the doctor, and he says to the doctor, he goes, you know, my daughter just wants my money. Dad, you don't have any money. Do I wish you had money? Well, I didn't know he was telling the doctor this stuff. So what you do, if you have a rager like I did, get a tape recorder and just keep it hidden in your pocket. And when he's screaming, yelling, spitting, spewing, pounding, and throwing things, you can record that rage. If I had done that early on, I would have got help with medication right away, because they would have heard it.
Where did you find the most support?
Well, like
the Alzheimer's.
The Alzheimer's Association, of course, and then adult daycare. Listen to me. This is the answer, because my parents were in bed 23 hours a day waiting to die. Okay, so what are you guys doing? Not too much, just waiting to die. Okay.
That's exciting.
Couldn't get them out of bed. So once I go into the book how to do this, but once you get them in adult daycare, they have something to do, people to see, places to go, things to do. He started loving it. Couldn't wait to go.
A different person.
Different person. This is the answer. I can't say enough about adult daycare. This is one of my missions, is more funding for daycares, everybody. We need it. Write your Congress people.
Now, you talk about in your book, negative quote.
Yeah, you know, when you've got a complaining elder.
Right.
Oh, this hurts and this, oh, the aches, the pains, you know, and you come over you talk to your mom and dad, you know, they're still living by themselves, and you come over and all they do is like, you know, you're just like, can't listen to one more thing. They're just going on and on and on. Say, okay, you've used up your negativity quotient for the day.
So did you find that a lot of the personality that you grew up with really intensified, and then some of his personality from childhood also came out?
Yes. You know, it's called the more so theory of aging. This is a very technical term. I want you all to write this down, the more so theory of aging. Whoever you were as a young person, you're going to be more so that way when you get older. So my mother, who was a doll her whole life, was even sweeter. My father, of course. So, you know, but you know what? It can be conversely, too. I've had people tell me, you know, my mother used to be the sweetest, darlingest, loveliest person, and now she's turned into Cruella de Vil. Yes, that's it. You know, so they can change, too. So that's a warning sign. They are more over the top who they used to be, or they're different, completely different from they used to be. Yeah, so there's a lot of warning signs. You know, another one, my dad was we were driving in the town they lived 37 years, and main street, main drag. And he's telling me to turn right to go to Aunt Mary's instead of left. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, well, Dad, you've been to Aunt Mary's 1,000 times. You know she doesn't live over there, she lives over here. Where am I? Totally lost in space. Another warning sign, because he just got completely disoriented, didn't know where he was, and so then he knew, you know, a half hour later he was okay. See, so what most people do is ignore that, you know, like, well, he's back, he's okay now. I don't want to acknowledge what just happened. And so they don't want to acknowledge the pink elephant in the living room, you know. They're okay. And see, that's wrong. What you got to do is wake up, because with one of those medications, you're going to be able to save yourself. You know, you're going to save yourself heartache. The money you save in Kleenex, I swear, is going to save you your life fortune. It's a killer. Then it's also going to save you because when they go into stage 2, which they're going to go into with or without the medication, it's just a matter of how soon, stage 2, you're going to have people with them. Either the spouse will do it or the adult child, hello, and then you've got to hire caregivers. And they're $16 to $18 an hour with a 4-hour minimum. And so, per day, hello. And then, you know, my dad had to be checked on in the morning and evening because you never knew what he was going to get into. So I had 4 hours in the morning and then 4 hours in the evening before I had to go to 24-hour care. Now, what if I had known all this? I'm telling you, I could have kept him in stage 1 a lot longer.
Well, if you kept him in stage 1 a lot longer, what does that mean for stage 2? Does it shorten it? And then you go to stage 3?
Well, you know, these medications are new. They've only been out, we've only had them about 3.5 years. You know, the first one came out, and then the last one for a year and a half, and then we had one 6 months ago. So a lot of stuff's being done. But they don't work on everybody, and if one doesn't work, you try another one. That's why you need the right doctor, geriatric dementia specialist, have I made that clear, who's going to know which medication is going to work. So you keep a spiral notebook, and you write down anything that strikes you as odd, write it down. Because a specialist is going to know if a certain part of the brain is being damaged by a certain type of behavior, like if they're paranoid, you know, their spouse is, you know, 60-year marriage, my father's going to divorce my mother because she was talking on the phone to my aunt. Okay? So, you know, you write down these things. That will tell the dementia specialist which part of the brain is being damaged, and he can pinpoint better what might work better, combination of medications, you know, because they take, how many other medications do they take? So it's got to be balanced. And then if you can keep them in stage 1. Now, even if you're listening to this and your loved one's in stage 2 and you're saying, Jacqueline, they already have full-time care, you might be able to help that stage, make it more lucid, make them clearer. You know, once I got my mom on this medication, both of them, they were so much clearer. So the periods in between the dementia
were longer.
So I'd be talking to her, she'd be totally clear. I'm like, oh, we're having a really clear day with her. And I'd be so happy, and then all of a sudden she'll go, well, my father killed my mother. Grandpa died when I was a baby. Grammy lived to be 97. You must have had a dream. He killed her. No, he's in heaven with Grammy. Well, he is not. He is in hell.
Like, oh my goodness.
So instead of thwarting them, here's what you do when you have somebody with dementia. It's called the validation theory. Hello. You want to be there with them. Okay, so I said, you know what, Mom? Tell me about your dad. Well, she hated her dad. But she moved away from home at 13. Now, isn't it interesting that the hatred of her dad and those childhood memories are haunting her at 82? So instead of saying, no, he died, you know, a long time ago, tell me about your dad. And she told me stories I never heard. Maybe they were true, maybe they weren't. But it helped her
to get it off.
Out. So be there with your loved one. Don't thwart them. Validate where they're at in their head. They may be able to be working through some unresolved issues of a lifetime. A lot of professionals think that's what can happen. That'll help you. That's why you get to a doctor that knows. And you get all the meds from the same pharmacy, so any interaction can be caught. And you know what? Go on my website. I have a website, www.elderrage.com. 2 R's in there. And there's an online dementia test. And it's early detection, okay? So you take it if you think it's you that's got the problem, or for your loved one, and you take that test, and it's going to help you. It's another tool, you know, to say, yeah, you know what, something is going on here, and you need to get them to a specialist. So go on my website, and you know what, there's tons of resources on there, free resources on the valuable resources section. Any website I can find that's helpful, I put it on there. So you can find tons of resources on my website. It's going to really, really help you, I promise.
What tips would you give to somebody who has to hire
a caregiver?
A caregiver.
To come in the home. Well, if you're going to hire yourself, I have a whole section in the book on what you need to know about doing this. There's just certain questions you can ask. I interviewed so many people in person that I hadn't asked enough answers over the phone to get the questions. Are they geographically desirable, so they're not going to be driving a long way? You know, have they had experience with elder care? Talk to all the references. Who have they worked for? Were they happy with them? Who are they working for now? You know, do they have a criminal record? Would they let you fingerprint them? If they say no, you don't want to hire them to be in the house with your mom and dad. You know what I mean? So I have all these questions, what you need to know about hiring a caregiver. I have done it. I know what you look for. And there's wonderful services. If you live cross country, hire a geriatric case manager. Let's say you live across country, and your folks over there, and you're flying back and forth and back and forth, just hire a case manager who knows all this, who's going to walk into mom and dad's house and they're going to know, boom, 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 what needs to be done. You got to get durable power of attorney in place for all health and all financial. Call an elder law attorney. They're going to help you get that information. Because once they're diagnosed with dementia, you can't get that durable power of attorney, you know. If you
can't get a lot of legal documents signed.
The other thing is long-term care insurance, everybody. I'm telling you, this is the answer. If you're listening to me and you say, Jacqueline, I don't need to listen to you. My parents are healthy. If they're in their 50s, 60s, or 70s and they're still in good shape, please, I have it in the book. Long-term care insurance to pay for caregivers to come into the home or in assisted living, board and care, or full nursing dementia care unit. It breaks your life savings. I'm telling you, this caregiving stuff.
Very expensive.
And you know, it's another thing I need to change the laws. When we burn through their life savings, which we did with my parents, like that, 2 parents with 24-hour care, let me tell you, why doesn't the government, nationwide, only a few states, why doesn't the Medicaid system help to pay for caregivers to come into the home or assisted living or board and care? In most states, they will only pay for full-on nursing home. My parents weren't ready for a nursing home. They needed care. They needed some care in the home.
And you don't really want them in a nursing home either.
And who does? Until you have to. You know, most families want to keep their loved ones at home as long as we can. Wouldn't you? I'm going to want to stay in my home as long as I can.
You get better care.
You know,
I hate to
well,
say this.
there's a lot of wonderful places. We just hear about the bad ones. If what's right for the family is that they get placed someplace, I go into the book how you find the right place, talk to the ombudsman, make sure there are any liens against that home, because there are wonderful places that they may flourish. Many times they will flourish there if they can't be cared for properly at home. The key is safety, the right doctors, the right medication, that they're not in pain, that they have stimulation, that it works for the entire family that's involved. And if it doesn't work for you, you know, there are specialists that will help you get them placed properly.
How do you deal with everything going on when you live so far away? Do you find it's very stressful? How do you deal with it?
You know, now because I have it managed and I have the right, I know what to do. Now I know what to do. If I'd only known all this. So now I feel like I have it so managed that I feel very confident of how I have it set up now.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't before. That's why I got trapped for a year. I was a 20-year career in the television business. Forget it. Had to go take care of mom and dad. Do you know Alzheimer's costs American business $33 billion a year?
Wow.
79% of that is lost absenteeism because of baby boomers taking time off work to go take care of mom and dad. And I'll tell you, you know what? It's a 63% higher death rate if you are a caregiver because of the stress of caregiving. Many times the caregiver dies before the one that they're taking care of because of the stress. I felt
No
like I was,
kidding.
I was like thinking I was going because it was so hard that whole year.
One of the questions is so prevalent outside of Manhattan is how do you get an elder person to give up driving?
The worst. Horrible. I did it all wrong, took the car keys away, hated me, put the club on the steering wheel, he nearly ripped the steering column out, just called me every name you can imagine, just horrible. Well, I did it the wrong way. What you do is if you have a loved one, you know, it's a 4-time higher accident rate with seniors. If you know they need to be off the road, you need to act now. Call the DMV, explain the situation. I've got a real obstinate elder who doesn't want to give up driving. Help me. What I did finally with Dad was I said, you know, Dad, the DMV called. Somebody reported you driving erratically. I've got to take you in for a routine eye exam. I'm sorry this has happened. Take him in there, and then if the DMV, I mean, I had 3 doctors tell me he shouldn't be driving. He had macular degeneration, couldn't see. License was still good.
But
Didn't matter, he couldn't see, but the license still good. See, that's the problem. We need to check the license every year. Or check their eyes every year from the DMV. Anyway, you take them in there, and then if the DMV takes the license away, then I could be the devoted child that says, I'm so sorry this has happened. Let me arrange for alternate transportation for you. And for a few bucks, he could be taken anywhere locally, and I wouldn't have to worry about, you know, him hurting somebody on the freeway. I've got a chapter in my book by a renowned dementia specialist, Dr. Rodman Shankle. He's going to help you talk to your doctor. But you know what he says to his patients when he's got an adult child and the mother won't give up driving? He'll say, now, Mary, when you start to drive, I want you to call me because I'm going to make sure my family's off the road before you get on the freeway.
what legal papers do you suggest that everyone have in place with their parents?
Call an elder law attorney. Just look in the phone book, attorneys, elder law. because the laws are very specific in every state that are different, and you want an attorney that really knows the laws, and they're changing all the time with elder care, okay? And you've got to get a durable, and I stress the word durable, power of attorney, which means that if your loved one becomes incapacitated, you can step in and make decisions for them. You need two, one for health and one for financial. Now, after diagnosis of dementia, if they've been diagnosed with dementia, you cannot get these, okay? So you have to do this before you get the diagnosis so that you can step in and help them, all right?
How did you get your parents to sign?
It was horrible. I had, it's almost like an intervention. You have to have every doctor, every family member, everybody trying to convince my dad that this was the right thing to do. It was really hard. Yeah.
How did you manage it? How did you manage the stress? What'd you do?
Humor, I rented a lot of comedy movies because I cried every day. I sobbed trying to solve this. And support group. Call the Alzheimer's Association and get a support group, because if I had been around other people going through this, solutions would have presented themselves to me. Right. And somebody would have said, I went through that with my mom, or I went through that with my dad. Here's an idea for you. My dad wouldn't give up the car keys. Put a little notch, take the car, when he's asleep, take the car keys and put a little notch in them so they won't work, but he could still keep the keys. So that's a security blanket. Take the distributor cap off the car. I got all these tips in my book. Elder Rage. I'm telling you, it will save your life. Out for help, call the Alzheimer's Association, get the Aricept, the Exelon, the Reminil, get the brain chemistry managed, get them into adult daycare, and while they're there, you go to a support group. The Alzheimer's Association will connect you to a support group. Because if you're around other people going through this, you're not going to feel like you're losing it, and solutions are going to present themselves. And then I go into the book, how to cope, how to emotionally watch a loved one decline, because it's called The Long Goodbye, and it's real hard. So, and you got to keep your sense of humor.
And I'm going to say thank you.
Thank
Jacqueline,
you so
much.
Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. I hope this has helped you with your aging parents, too. Bye now.
Bye-bye.